So welcome. Thanks for joining us tonight for the Artemis, South Carolina Fireside Chat. In case you don't know, Artemis is a national organization that is all about getting women in the outdoors, angling, fishing, hiking, just building that complete sportswoman, engaging, empowering, and educating in a variety of different ways. And we have a group in South Carolina. We've got about almost 200 members now on our Facebook group. And if you're not already in that, please join us. You just do a Facebook search for Artemis, South Carolina. And the idea is that we're building a community so that if you wanted to go camping with your kids and wanted another family to go with, that's a place for you to start. If you're looking for somebody to mentor you or even just to hunt with and you're very experienced, you want somebody else besides your husband or your boyfriend to go duck hunting with, this is a place to go find it. So that's what we're about. And we have a lot of activities coming up. This is a monthly thing, a fireside chat. But then there are some hunts. We have a deer camp coming up in December, hoping to do some additional fishing weekends and some other events next year. So
really quickly before I kind of go over a little bit about me. So within this document that I put together for you guys, I kind of go over tailoring activities per age and safety that goes along with each age group. We're going to talk a little bit about kind of feeding your adventure and incorporating food into getting your kids outside. And then we'll give you some activities and resources to go along with each age group. A little bit about me. My name's Allie, like Morgan mentioned, and I am a fisheries scientist with the South Atlantic Fishery Management Council. So my kind of focus is a little bit more aquatic, although I do enjoy hunting as well. Haven't in a while, but I still would like to. In fact, I think I might use Artemis to maybe find some opportunities. So my husband's name is Eric and my son's name is Camden, and we absolutely love to be outside. We live in Somerville, South Carolina, so right outside of Charleston. And we just recently moved onto a property where we have a little bit more space to roam, and we absolutely love it. So without further ado, I'll jump right in. I have two really important rules when it comes to getting my son or so my husband's name is Eric and my son's name is Camden, and we absolutely love to be outside. We live in Somerville, South Carolina, so right outside of Charleston. And we just recently moved onto a property where we have a little bit more space to roam, and we absolutely love it. So without further ado, I'll jump right in. I have two really important rules when it comes to getting my son or, if I'm with anybody else's kids, getting those kids outside. And the number one rule is if my child asks to go outside, I go. And sometimes this can be hard. I've been doing a lot of working from home lately. And sometimes it involves, disconnecting from my monitor and taking my laptop outside. In the evenings, sometimes it's hard. We've worked all day, we're tired. The couch is very inviting. But if he wants to go outside and ride his tractor, then we're going. Rule number two is to think like a behavior scientist. So my husband is a board certified behavioral therapist, and he works with kids with autism. And he uses behavioral therapy to kind of help reinforce behaviors that we want and kind of squash or ignore behaviors that you don't. So that's kind of my principle, is that if my child is excited and has a good attitude about going outside or doing something outside, then we reward that behavior. And reward can be anything that you decide as a parent. So, you don't have to be giving your child candy to reinforce. You can verbally reinforce. It can be a toy, anything that they respond favorably to. Even if it's just attention. I know we're potty training, so, a high five or, making it a big deal as a reinforcement. And then if I have see a bad attitude or we're fussing, I'm kind of redirecting to, oh man, like the weather's really great outside. Oh, look, we have this toy that we only play with when we're outside. So trying to redirect and not give attention to that behavior that isn't desired. So that kind of goes through our theme today, is incorporating thinking like a behavior scientist. All right, so I'm gonna jump right into kind of our first level, age level, and that is something that I am pretty familiar with, and that is toddlers and younger. So we started taking Camden outside as early as we possibly could. I remember going bank fishing at a little pond that had some bass in it. My husband and I had barely recovered, and we just strapped a bug net over my car seat and kind of plopped him down next to us while we were practicing fly fishing for bass. So simple stuff where you might not think it has a big impact will later on in life. Another thing that we started him off early with is kayaking. Now, there's a lot of safety aspects there that you have to take into account, but modern technology has created a lot of safety features that make it easier to take these young kids outside, get them into hunting, fishing, boating, things like that. So we took him on the kayaks when he was around 9 months. To sit in my husband's lap, and we did a really quick, like 10-minute paddle to kind of get him used to the boat, and now he loves it. So hopefully he'll be paddling on his own soon. And then some other things to think about are tools to make things easier. So we really enjoy hiking when we're camping, but Camden is about at a 1 mile limit for how long he can hike, to be expected. But we have a backpack that turns my husband into a pack mule. And so we put Camden in that backpack, and he has little stirrups, and he rides right on my husband's back. So I know that there's tons of technology like this, like sunshades if you're somewhere where it's hot. It can help prolong or make the experience more enjoyable for being outside. So when he gets tired, the experience doesn't have to end. He can go on my husband's back. So some good things to keep the fun going. And so activities for this age group, you're wanting to stay kind of close to home, and they're obviously very paired with toys at this age. So incorporating those things that might be enjoyable inside, outside. So walks, rides. We love to take him outside, and we ride bikes, and he has a little John Deere tractor that he likes to put on full bore, and we actually have to really pedal to keep up with him. And then scavenger hunts. There's an example of a scavenger hunt brought to you by Camden at the end of this. That's something that we incorporated when I was kind of teaching this in person, but I'll get more into that later. And then some safety for this age. Again, you're staying closer to home, avoiding that extreme weather. But the safety equipment at this age is really crucial. So like I mentioned, you're really gonna wanna make sure that you are researching your personal flotation devices, those backpacks, making sure things are fitting, straps are snug, stuff like that. And there's a lot of great resources. The SCGNR is a great resource for safety information, especially with boating and fishing, things like that. And one thing from personal experience, if they pick it up, it's probably going to go in their mouths at that age. My child, I've had to swat some things out of his hand many a time. So that's something that my eyes are always peeled for. And then going back to thinking like a BCBA, when they're that age, they're going to fall, you're going to have bumps, bruises, scrapes, and that's going to happen. But remembering instead to focus on the good attitude instead of blowing the issue up. I know when we were camping a couple weekends back at the women's retreat, my child was helping with the scavenger hunt, leaned down in front of a fire hydrant and came back up and hit the giant like nut on the side of the fire hydrant right on his cheek, and he had pretty decent shiner. But instead of, because he cried and it hurt, it would have hurt me. But instead of focusing on like, oh my gosh, you're hurt, we, inspected his face and then said, okay, you know what, you're having a really great attitude, taking some deep breaths, like, let's get you some ice. And we moved on quicker, and it wasn't an issue where we had to, go back in the car or go back to the camper. So thinking like a BCBA will help make it a more enjoyable time for everybody. All right, moving right along. So elementary age kids. So a little bit older now, you're having homework and school be incorporated in your daily routine. So take those things outside. Using natural objects to help aid in learning can be a really great thing to foster a love of the outside and foster that relationship. So even starting with simple math, using things to count. Now I know mine's not in school yet, But when we go golfing, sometimes we'll find pine cones and he'll pretend that they're dinosaur eggs, and we'll use those to count because he's starting to get into that age where we're counting and doing letters and colors. So that can be taken to grade levels as well. You can help to assign tasks for stuff like gardening, weeding, watering. And I know for me, my backyard isn't super conducive to gardening. However, I do have a lot of indoor plants. So some days I'll just have planting days where I'm repotting, and I'll try to do all of that outside so I'm not making a huge mess. And then he can help me. And a lot of times he'll help and then stay outside, which is absolutely fantastic and what I want. Another thing that I like to do is take indoor activities that he enjoys outside. So I know my son loves to watch T-Rex Ranch. It's a father-son duo that make YouTube videos where they like superimpose dinosaurs chasing them through their backyard. And they get on walkie-talkies and say, you know, park ranger so-and-so, can you come in? So we'll do that outside. So we'll turn off the TV and say, do you want to go play T-Rex Ranch outside? This doesn't have to just be T-Rex Ranch. I'm sure people can think of 1,000,001 shows that can be brought outside and kind of role play those outside. It might not be, you know, hiking or fishing, but it'll again foster that love of being outside and doing things outside. And so elementary age school kids, and even younger, to be honest with you, you can start to explore kind of what their niche is outside. So when I was very young, I had an affinity for water and streams and fish and anything in the water. And I discovered that pretty early on. My grandmother had a stream in her backyard. And when I would go, I would get out of the car and I would go around the house and into the stream. So I found that out really early, and my parents, you know, would always help foster that, you know, as I grew older. So watch for those things. And, you know, it might not be streams, it might be, you know, bird watching or geology or horticulture, stuff like that. And so as far as activities go, when you've got an elementary age student or child, you can start kind of creeping further away from home, right? You don't have to stay super close. You can kind of, they're more adaptable to weather conditions and being in the car for longer. So think about camping, boating, hiking. Again, if you started them young, these activities are going to be easier to do. They're already going to feel comfortable in a kayak or a boat. They're going to know that they need to have safety precautions in place. As far as hunting goes, I know I didn't focus too much on the hunting aspect when I first kind of walked through this, but if you have a child in elementary school that's starting to be able to really follow directions well, and that's the key, you can start introducing them to firearm safety, like the anatomy of a firearm, a good time to look at a BB gun, in my opinion, and teach them, you know, what the firearm does, the purpose of it, where it's stored, who is responsible for it. So some good times to really build in that basic safety and respect that then you can morph into a love of, you know, shooting, hunting, where you don't have to worry so much about the safety. And then overall safety, if you're venturing further from home, make sure you have a safety kit. I know as an adult, it's important that my husband and I take a safety kit when we go on long hikes. We were up in Okanee probably about a month ago now, and we went on a really long hike to see one of the waterfalls. And I apologize if you can hear the Halloween witch going off in the background. My son is currently playing with. So it makes me feel better when I know I'm going to be hiking 3 miles in and 3 miles out, that if something were to happen, we would have the materials there to help us out. Again, safety equipment. Doesn't really matter the age. This is going to be on the list, every single age group. You know, you need to know how to use the equipment properly. So you're still going to be using those personal flotation devices. If you're introducing firearms, if you don't know how to explain it, then they're not going to understand it. So there's no shame and reaching out to people. Artemis is a great resource, I'm sure, on how to talk firearm safety with your kids and firearm storage with your kids. And it's important to have those conversations early and often. And then start the dialogue of what's safe and what isn't safe. So for me, my backyard is filled with snakes, some of them venomous. Every once in a while, we'll see the dogs alerting us to something, and it might be a copperhead we have to shoo on its way. So starting to teach the difference between a black snake and a copperhead, poisonous mushrooms and not poisonous mushrooms. And this can be a really great opportunity where you can learn alongside your child. And again, with firearm safety as well, it might be something that you learn that together, or hunter safety, something like that, where you can do it together. All right, moving on to middle school age kids, and then next we'll do high school. I personally don't have a middle school age child. I did a brief stint as a teacher, teaching a blended classroom of middle and high school students. So that's where my small experience comes in. But try to engage friends. So at this point, you're probably having big groups of kids coming through your house in and out on a weekend for a slumber party. Try kind of shifting that group of people outside. If it's simple as throwing a football or riding a bike, they're not planted in front of the TV. This is where I think it gets even more crucial to be packing special meals or snacks and pairing that with outside. And I'll get a little bit more into that, and I have a fun story in a minute to go over that. And at this age, you might have to insist a little bit that we go outside. And again, think like a BCBA, reward when you have a good attitude. So, you know, if you say, hey, listen, we're going to turn off the TV and we're going to head outside. And they're like, okay, great. Then you know what? You earned an extra hour of X, Y, and Z at the end of the day. They probably have technology in their hands at this point in middle school age, which was not the case when I was growing up, but it is what it is. And use that to your advantage. Explore apps that get kids outside. One of the activities that I really want to highlight at this age is citizen science. So citizen science is how I got my start in fisheries management. And that is where citizens can help scientists collect data to help inform research, in fisheries cases, can even create management, help with climate change, you name it. And citizen science is great for all levels. On the page for resources, there are some really great citizen science links there that you can get your kids involved in. And not all of them are outside. Zooniverse, I know, is an online crowdsourcing platform, but if you pair it with outside, it could be a really great resource. Social media groups are a great resource. Again, Artemis is on social media to find people, like Morgan mentioned, to go camping with. So use those to your advantage. At this age, we can start having safety be something that the children are responsible for. Again, you're still having to come back behind them and making sure that they're staying hydrated, they put on the sunscreen, stuff like that. But if you're giving them the responsibility, it's going to be vesting their interest in being outside. So what do you think we need for this hike? What do you think we need for this camping trip? Stuff like that. And then finally, teens and high school age kids. So at this age, make sure to look for things that engage them in becoming stewards of the environment. So beach sweeps, river sweeps. I know as far as hunting goes, Steve Ornella is the guy that does Meat Eater, and my husband, I think if he could run away with Steve Ornella, he would. And I have my son coming in now, so sorry for the interruption.
Well, your husband needs to hurry up, because it's either I might take Steve Ornella first. Hi, Camden.
Can you say hi? Okay, take those in the living room. I'll be right out. Can you take them in the living room? Thank you. So Steve Ranella is a really, he does a really great job of kind of bringing hunting full circle and bringing light to not wasting, really respectful hunting practices, learning the importance behind hunting. And I think that kind of vested interest, instead of just saying, okay, well, you know, I'm going to go hunting, but not understanding kind of the why, the how, the importance of it. So that's something that I like to foster, especially when we're fishing. If we're fishing to keep fish, why are we keeping the fish? If we're doing catch and release, what are the best practices that we need to do to ensure that if we release a fish, that it's going to survive? Looking for social media groups, again, use social media to your advantage. Now I've got a dog in here. And then technology. So using those apps, citizen science apps, again, if you've found that kind of niche interest of your child, get them involved in citizen science projects that will get them focused in that niche area. I know for me, I liked to, back in the day, it was a paper. We didn't have apps when I was birding as a child, but I really enjoyed that. And I know that there are some citizen science projects I found as an adult that if I didn't work 40 hours a week, I would definitely do. So look for those. I have down here that finding classes. I think this is kind of a touchy area. I think that if somebody were to say, do you want to take an extra class when I was in high school, I would say absolutely not. But if it's something that your child really enjoys, so say they're really into photography, I think if it's a passion, then a class would be advantageous. But I think if it's not, then a class might be a punishment. So take that with a grain of salt. And then explore career opportunities. So even if at the end of exploring career opportunities, your child says, absolutely, I will not be a marine scientist or fishery scientist, which I don't blame them. At least you've looked into it. You've spent time, you know, maybe talking to park rangers, or exploring careers online, or reaching out to government agencies like the DNR and talking to people. It kind of immerses you and your child in that experience. And then quick safety. Again, making your children more responsible. They might be going and doing things on their own with groups. I probably will never stop checking to make sure that my son has the proper safety equipment, no matter what. But again, investing that interest in making sure that they are taking care of their own safety on the trail, on the water, in the deer stand. So as far as firearm safety, again, I didn't focus too much on it on this document, but this is where, you know, the basics should already be down with firearms. And a lot of times you can find something that they're good at. So I haven't done it in a really long time, but I enjoyed shooting skeet and doing skeet coursers with a shotgun. That's something that is really easy to do if you have some space, or to find courses where you walk through, or you ride a golf cart through. And those I think would be really great. I know when I've done them, I've seen a ton of kids out there, and I think it's a great opportunity for kids.
I'd say, Allie, I was at the archery class at the Women's Outdoor Retreat. The guy that taught the class actually was a middle school teacher, but he was very passionate about getting kids into it. So a lot of schools are now doing archery, even as young as like kindergarten. And he said a lot of times it's about asking. It's about saying, hey, here's a group that want to do this. So if you want to start it, find a couple other parents and try to get that going. They need the sponsors, they need some equipment, and then finding the space. But there is certainly, I met another young girl at the DNR dove hunt who is a competitive skeet shooter. I mean, she was like killing the doves. So I think having, but that her intro was in skeet shooting and sporting clays. So yeah, a lot of schools, that was not around, even though I was from a rural county in South Carolina, that was not something, I mean, August 15th, you showed up to school late because that was the first day of deer season, but yet there wasn't like a sporting clays or an archery team, which would have been really fun. So I think
Yeah.
there's more interest in that in our state, and there's more opportunities. So if it's not in your community, feel free to start it. I think there's some resources out there.
That's an awesome idea. And I think even, you know, honing, even as an adult, honing in on being a better shot is something that I find is such a challenge, and it really motivates me. And I know it would motivate mine when he's old enough to just be good at something and to be, you know, a good shot and be hitting the targets and hitting the clays. And that can really kind of also increase the respect that your child has for firearms. You know, man, I really want to get good at shooting clays. So that's something that I definitely want to instill in mine when he's ready. So
absolutely.
All right. So I mentioned food earlier, and I'll go through this kind of quickly, but food is a great reinforcement. So we talked about reinforcements at the top. When you're wanting to have a behavior that you like, a good attitude per se, you want to foster that so it continues. And a great way to do that is food. So just like scent is really tied to memory, so is food. So what I grew up doing, so I grew up in Maryland, so obviously I have a ton of memories eating crabs every summer. We would all gather on the pool deck and we would eat crabs. But the other kind of food item that's been passed down in our family is called Lake Carry chicken. And so my dad and his family were camping on a lake in Pennsylvania called Lake Carry. And their kind of camp neighbor had this big witch's cauldron, and it had a grate on it, and they were cooking chicken and they were basting it. And when they would baste it, the smell would kind of waft into my dad's campsite. So they walked over and they said, gosh, that smells so good. Like, we want the recipe for that chicken. And so they gave him the recipe, and it was something that my family went out and got the big cauldron and would charcoal grill this chicken all day long. And it was just something that whenever the family got together, we would all be outside all summer day long, cooking chicken and hanging out by the pool. And it was something that I really closely tied with being outside, because we never did it inside. So Lake Carry chicken is kind of my my chicken, or my food reinforcement. And I've made it a couple times camping with my son, and it's just a fun thing for my husband and I to do. We still do crabs every once in a while, but people boil them down here, which is a travesty. But it doesn't have to be Lake Carry chicken. S'mores isn't something that you usually do inside. So s'mores is a really great and simple one that you only do over a fire. But find something else that you eat or cook or put together, even just outside, and only make that recipe when you're outside. It's kind of a treat. It's not something that you have every day. And whenever we eat Lake Carry chicken, I get nostalgic, even as an adult. So some really great memories tied with that. And then this is that resources page. So I added these citizen science. I ended up talking about it the first time I went through this, and I was like, why didn't I put citizen science on here? So it's on here. Some really great resources, but Artemis itself is a fantastic resource. Like Morgan mentioned, it's a great way to get involved, to meet people, to find resources. And I have a feeling if you were to just go in the Artemis page and make a post, that you would have tons of people reach out to you and help you and provide support and guidance and materials as well. A lot of these links are Pinterest. For smaller kids, Pinterest is a godsend. Crafts, activities, forts, anything you could want or ever need is on Pinterest. So I really recommend checking out Pinterest for ideas, even simple stuff that doesn't have to cost a lot of money. Pinterest. Really quickly, these citizen science opportunities, Zooniverse is going to be the one online. One that comes to mind really quickly is studies that use trail cameras. So they put trail cameras up, and then you can look at the pictures and identify which animals are in the trail cams. It's really cool. They have all kinds of projects, but that one kind of stood out to me because I enjoy doing it. But if you're wanting to kind of pair that with where can we put a trail camera? I know some of them can get very expensive, but I'm sure on Amazon you can find a cheaper one.
There are some cheaper ones, yeah.
Yeah. So if you're just doing this for what can we see in our backyard, you don't need a $300 trail camera. But that could be a fun way to kind of bring Zooniverse outside. So, you spend a couple minutes looking at their trail cameras, and then you go out and find your trail camera, stuff like that. SciStarter is a resource that connects people with projects. So you can find specific projects to tailor to your kids' interests. And then Earth Echo International is a really great group. They're kind of marine aquatic focused. Sorry, I'm biased. But they are really great at connecting kids with resources. Sorry about the screaming. Getting kids involved. They have virtual field trips, stuff like that. Some really cool stuff. And then so I'm a dinosaur household here. We absolutely love dinosaurs here. So when we did this kind of class in person, we took these Jurassic Park toys and hid them all over the place as an example scavenger hunt. So this is something, I left this in here because it's a great thing to duplicate. So what I did was, sorry, my house is always loud. I apologize. So we hid these dinosaurs in different places, and then we gave you clues as to where they were hidden based on kind of what environment they like to live in. So it's a simple, easy thing. You can do it with other things aside from dinosaurs. I know you could probably modify this for Paw Patrol. And again, scavenger hunts are something that is a little bit geared towards the younger ages, but you could definitely kind of make it more interesting or harder for older kids. Have it be more of like an ecological lesson. But this is where we started because I have so many dinosaur toys in my house, it's not even funny. So it's a kind of a cool way to get them out from in front of the TV, which is hard. We love to be outside, but it's still hard for us sometimes, and really have some fun outside. So with that, Morgan,
I think Allie, I think scavenger hunts are a great tool. We do family Thanksgiving at my parents' house, which is out in the country. And when the collective kids, I don't have children, but the collective kids were, young, I did a scavenger hunt. And it was a nature one, which I think I probably found on Pinterest. And it was go find 3 yellow leaves, it was like, one forked stick, 2 red leaves, 3 yellow leaves, 5 acorns. And, I didn't even have to go hide them. I just sent them out into the yard to find those things. And, kids love an Easter egg hunt. It's the same thing.
I had someone actually in the course, one of the courses that I was doing a couple weekends back, and she actually mentioned geocaching. And I don't know if you've ever heard of that, but
I've heard of it. I've never done it.
So I haven't either, but my husband's talked about it multiple times. We just keep forgetting to do it. But it's good for older kids. So they have geocaching apps where you can like type in, and she had found one at Hickory Knob. It was so cool. You just type in where you are, and there's these kind of little treasures that you can find. And sometimes they're really small. And you can kind of leave like a note that you found it and then rehide it in the same place for somebody else to find like your note. So it's kind of like an actual treasure hunt. And I just thought that was such a cool idea, because I think I would, if I ever did that, I'd probably get like bitten by the bug, and then I would be geocaching everywhere we went. So
there's so many different ways. And I think, but you talk about like making sure there's rewards. I'm obsessed with cicadas, and I collect the cicada shells. And so I had some friends' kids here a few weeks ago, and I was going to go, it's actually been a slow season, but I took some out of my collection and dropped them in the flower bed. And so I was like, okay, y'all want to come help me look for cicadas? And they all found one because I salted it all up. I mean, they were all in there. And
mine loves.
And then my friend said when they got home the next day, they woke up. It was like, let's go find cicadas. So I felt like, you made them not scared of bugs, like explain what it is. It was a cool thing to find. And maybe next time they won't squeal when they see one. Kids that squeal from bugs and think, okay, well, why? You're much bigger than it. Let's talk about that.
Yes. And mine's kind of right now, he's in the stage of like, what is this? What is this? But why? Why?
Yeah.
And so, you know, I like answering those questions because I get to share my love of being outside or fishing or, you know, looking at fish or touching fish.
Yeah.
That's my thing. You know, I love sharing those. So it's, you know, a little bit nicer than kind of, well, this YouTube video. So
Sure.
I really like to seize on those opportunities. So.
And that's so important. I mean, it's making sure they see it through the different lens and hear it, because if you're scared of it, they're going to be scared of it. You know, and even this weekend we were fishing with my nephew, and he's 4, and you know, I sliced my finger on one of the brim's fins, and I didn't let him see it. But then when he wanted to grab one, I'm like, let's get a towel, because I knew that if he got sliced by one, it wasn't going to be the end of the world, but it would have been a blow up. And so let's just find a different way where he doesn't have that bad experience. But then on the other end, I'm not a parent, I almost took the hook and like, because he was slinging it around, and I was trying to explain why this is going to hurt. And I know this is not good, but I almost like took the hook and touched his finger to let him like, this is what's going to happen. It's going to be in your face, or it's going to be in mine. And let's talk about that. I realize it's probably not a good technique, but
we try
it's
to
worth
really have those conversations, because I think it is important to learn, you know, and we're starting to have him around a lot more fishing tack when we go. I know the last time we went catfishing, because it's easy and we tend to catch fish, because if he's sitting there and we're not catching anything, he's at that age still where he'll just boot it. But we did exactly that. You know, we showed him the hook. This is sharp. This will get stuck. And framing it in a, like, fishing is extremely fun. We love it. We need the hook to be able to fish. However, we have to be safe around it, because it could get stuck in our skin. It doesn't mean it has to, but it could. Because I think you have to walk that fine line of like fear mongering and, you know, complete avoidance. So there's that sweet spot in the middle where you're saying, you know, okay, you know, here's your rod. However, you know, we're going to have fun. We're going to catch fish. It's a beautiful day outside, you know, but we want to make sure that, you know, we're not swinging it around. If it does happen to get stuck, this is what we do. It's not the end of the world. We'll figure it out. And I know a lot of times, I mean, my child has, you know, BB's on. I'm sure, seen him take some pretty nice falls. She might have seen him smack his face on the fire hydrant. But I think that and it's very hard as a parent. But if accidents happen, that I'm not a medical professional, nor will I ever be. But when you know that there's a point where you need medical attention, remaining calm, because there's nothing you could do at that point, which is extremely hard. But I know people that work in the medical field, that when they're treating kids, it can be almost harder when you have somebody that's a parent, that's the energy level is so high and so frantic that the child is emulating that. So whenever something like that happens, where you know, there's blood, there needs to be a Band-Aid, or we need to go to the ER, you know, thinking to yourself, at this point, my job now, you know, I'm getting my kid to where he or she needs to be, but I gotta sit back and take some deep breaths and think to myself, okay, this is gonna be okay. We're gonna get this fixed. And remembering to keep it as a positive experience, because that way, those memories are gonna be, oh man, remember that time we were fishing, I stuck my finger with a hook, you know, we went to the ER, it was fine, but you know, we caught that huge fish and it was a really cool time. So I think making sure that those memories stay positive is a super big deal. So that's what I try. It's hard. It's very hard, because I feel like I default to like, oh my gosh, what's happening? Where's Camden? Is there blood? But yeah, so it's hard.
Hillary, I see that you joined us a little bit late. Do you have anything to share? Is she there? Oh, sorry, I have a tow truck in my yard. Hillary? Hey.
Yeah, sorry. I'm actually in the middle of trying to pack for a bow hunting trip with a toddler, so it's a little chaotic at our house.
That's
Good for you for
awesome.
getting out there. How so the toddler's going with you, or he is helping you pack?
Both.
Awesome.
Yeah, so I was a little bit late to this because that's what we were in the middle of doing and I completely forgot. But so we live in South Dakota and I'm going over to Wisconsin tomorrow morning to meet my brothers and my sister, and we're gonna kind of switch off and watch babies, and then I'm gonna hopefully take our little guy out, he's 2, out in a ground blind to try and, I don't know, see what happens, I suppose.
That's exciting.
So cool.
But I was listening to something the other day where it's like, it's going to be different. You'll never hunt the same way, but you're getting out there and just, you have to accept that it's different. It might not be the same format, but you'll figure it out.
Yep, I've got very low expectations. So.
Lots of toys and lots of treats.
Yep.
That's
well,
so
the ground
awesome
blind's a perfect setup for that.
Yeah, I think so. We've played in ground blinds and they think it's pretty fun. They think it's like a tent. So yeah, we'll see how it goes.
And you don't have to worry about hearing protection or anything like that. You just so that's good.
Yeah.
Just keeping them quiet and happy.
Yeah, that's the big one, is the quiet.
That's awesome. Well, good for you for getting out there. And thank you for joining us from South Dakota. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Are you involved in Artemis out there?
I'm not. I've kind of had a hard time getting involved with a lot of the conservation organizations here. So I'm located in the central part of the state, and it seems like most of them are either in Sioux Falls in the southeast part or in Rapid City. So it's been kind of tough to connect with some of those groups, just because it's a big state and not a lot of people. So yeah, we've got a community of like-minded folks here. Like I took my son out to the sporting clays range with some friends this summer, and had him in the backpack with the little earmuffs on, and he thought that was pretty fun. And then my friends were like, I didn't even know you could do that. I was like, I didn't either. So
that's the thing. I mean, it's not, like you said, it's not going to be the same. They're going to have to, and I suppose some kids will be impossible to sit in a backpack, but then, but they get used to it as well.
Yep. Yeah. And I think a lot of it too, like in my experiences, start young, like right away, so we've had him in a backpack since he was little. And he loves it because we go outside, we go play. And so that's what I tell all my friends that want to do the same kind of stuff.
That's great. Well, good for you for getting out there. I hope you have some success.
Thank you.
It's probably cold up there too. I guess that's another thing. Like here, it's still, I mean, it's like 50 degrees in the morning hunting in South Carolina. We don't really have to worry about it, but you got to keep warm too. Hey, buddy.
He's a little tired.
I get it. Yeah. Well, good luck.
Thank you.
Well, Allie, thank you so much for this. I think this was really great. We appreciate you sharing all this good information. We'll package it up and share it with others, because I think there's some good resources there. And I think your message is just get them outside. Just do it.
Early and often.
Early and often, like voting, but different.
Yes.
Well, thanks everybody for joining us, and I hope y'all enjoyed this recording. Since you didn't join us, it'd been better if you did, but we understand that things come up. Probably dealing with kids and supper, it is a tough time of the night. So we'll be having some more information, some more activities later on. Perhaps November might be a catch up on deer season. The rut is on right now in South Carolina, so we'd love to talk about that. Hopefully, because some people are putting some meat in the freezer. And but if there's any other topics, please join the Artemis Facebook page, and we'll build our community from there. So thanks, Allie. Thanks, Hillary. Thanks, Phoebe.
Have a great night, guys.